So this has given me an idea to start almost a series of talks on things which are sort of most of us want to know. I mean, it started as a group of Indian physicians settled in US, where I'm a part of a larger group. And that would allow us, so I know that most of us have visited a lot of overseas country over our time, last 30, 50, 70 years we have lived. My last visit was to Egypt, where obviously we had a sightseeing tour from Cairo to Nile River along and then came back and obviously saw what the guide was showing us. While I enjoyed the journey, saw the pluses, minuses of Egypt, when I came back, I had no idea where the word pyramid comes from. I had no idea whether India had any connection to Egypt at all. And till I attended a course at Hindu University of America, where Dr. and Mrs. Hari suggested what is the likely origin of word pyramid, how the Egyptian word called M-R-U, Mru, comes from an Indian word Meru, means mountain. And what is the relation of that? It was an eye-opening. At that moment, I realized how much we are missing out being born in India, being open to Indian languages, being inquisitive about India over the last, say, 50 years and connected with the spiritual exploration for last 20 years, how much I was missing out on this aspect of the life. While nothing is essential, I think all of us like to know what we come from, what are our roots and what are our possibilities. So that's where I realized their own exploration, got inquisitive about this, and I couldn't believe what they have done. While we all visit such countries all and time again, what they had done over the last 25 years, and both of them, Dr. and Mrs. Hari, are both as much professional as all of us are here. She belongs to IT and he commerce and then business background. But over last 25 years, and I'm going to ask them that question, what inspired them to do this? But over last 25 years, they not only visited corners of India, but also about 40 plus countries all over the world with a singular aim to see and understand their development, how it relates to India, how the Indian mindset has reached all over the world. And I think it means a lot. What they have brought out is a phenomenal. And I told them in the first class itself that the generations to come are going to be thankful to what you have started. And not only I would like to continue this effort, but put their own vision all over the nation to inspire the younger generations to take this route to explore the world. I mean, frankly, I wish I was a part of that story too over 20, 50 years where I had explored all over the world. I explored, but on a spiritual front to some extent, not as much as you do. But I went to a couple of places and I realized it is worthwhile being there. So it is amazing to me what both of you have done. And so let me start with that question. What inspired you to start this journey that you have done before we come to your main point?
Thank you so much, Dr. Parekh, for inviting us to be part of this group. Thank you. And as you said, we had the good opportunity of meeting you in the course on Hindu contribution to the world, which we did for Hindu University America. And thereon our friendship has blossomed much beyond this course or this content itself, for which we're thankful. To meet good people like you and a range of good people from there on. That's one. And getting on to your first question, yes, we both have been professionals for the last few decades and more. And in this professional career of ours, as you said, we have traveled to a range of countries. And everywhere, whichever country we go to, we make it a point all through our life, our married life, to read about that place. What are the civilization aspects of that place we're visiting? What is it they're going to offer? What is it we can learn from it there? And is there any connect with our civilization back home? And we took an effort to do this. See, because basically we focused on that. Much before we started our coach, much before we started our research on Bharath Gyan, it was a few years of understanding the study that we wanted to do. And it has been a more than beautiful journey. It's been a journey of pleasure. And it's been a journey that we've been privileged to have. And each aspect, suppose if we take Belgium, what is the connect between Belgium and India, or US? how was the United States mainland was connected to India, not by the Atlantic Ocean, but by the Pacific Ocean. Because when you see, we see a connect between the Indian civilization, American civilization over the Pacific East. America is to the east of America, because east of India, because after all it's a globe, you can reach the other way around. So each aspect we will take up and study, and we enjoyed this. Since we enjoyed it, we thought, let's focus on this instead of a professional career, which we at some time just gave up, to do the study and bring out in the form of books, films, articles, courses, and all that, and banners, posters, everything. So that we thought, let us reach the people, those who are interested in the language they are interested in, and in the methodology they're interested in, and what we can teach, explain to them, express to them in the way they willing to understand. For example, you caught on the very nice point of pyramids is a Greek term of only 400 years antiquity, which comes from the word Meru. Because when we did that research ourselves 20-25 years back, we were surprised and very interested in it, intrigued, surprised, and thereon. And then we started seeing pyramids everywhere in the world, in Turkey, in Spain, Tenerife, in US, Central America, Southeast Asia, China, Persia. The ziggurat mentioned in the Bible is in Persia. So like that, we started, every bit that we started researching on, started opening up our eyes to a variety of subjects all across different parts of the world. For example, today being Janmashtami, Krishna's birthday, when we started researching on Krishna, we found a beautiful connect between Hari Krishna and Hercules of the Greek civilization. It's not just phonetic connect. There's a factual connect mentioned by many scholars, British, European, Greek, Persian, and Indian. All the scholars have shown the connect. So we traced the route, the path this knowledge went from the Sindhu Saraswati civilization all the way up to Greece. And one earliest person who actually saw the connect much before us was Megasthenes, who was the Greek ambassador to India. Actually, we have that quote, it's in our book, Historical Krishna, where he says, when he comes to Mathura, do you know what he says? It's strange that the Indians are worshipping our Hercules here in India, in a place called Methora, because Methora is a Greek term, which is Mathura for us. He's talking about the Indians worshipping a Greek god Hercules in Methora, and who is a grandson of Surasena, because Surasena is a Greek divinity there. And who is this? Krishna's grandfather, Shauri.
The world is flat, isn't it? Ultimately,
absolutely.
The world is flat in a real life. That it is amazing to me.
Wow.
So I mean, who would take time, initiative to go through all this? I mean, you can imagine, in a way. I just have to put myself in your shoes, and the way the spiritual exploration invited me to take the journey. And many of my family members who are here, they sometimes laugh at it. And what are you doing? But I think people don't realize, when you have a passion, nothing stops you. I mean, you can make the way, and the existence makes the way to go through it when you like it. And I think there is a beauty for it. And my feeling is, nothing of a significance comes out in this world unless somebody becomes passionate. Somebody becomes willing to give life to it and journey. And the joy, only they know what it is all about. So I think this is what the purpose of this group was today, to share that joy of what you have explored, and to make people aware of our heritage, that not only it is relevant to them, but it is even as much relevant to the upcoming generations that are coming up, because they are totally, if we are dark, they are even more darkness to the whole thing. So I really wish that we invite even some of the youngsters in the West to take on this journey. And I think once they get inclined, they will do it much more passionately than the children in India are, because their mindset is slightly different. They can give the life. So hopefully that can even come to the Western shores. And I think through HUA, it will move forward in any case. So let us start with some of the banners. If you have those, feel free, and so that we can jumpstart our journey.
Yes.
So our plan is that they are going to talk on two main topics that I had put in, but I suggested them that bring out 5-10 items initially, just to people give a glimpse of the broad overview that they have done, just as they mentioned about Krishna, so that we can give an insight on a much larger, and then we'll go to specifics in depth of two topics, vaccination and the second topic that we have. So both the topics will touch base. Yes, go ahead.
So what we'll do is we look at the name Bharat first, which is what is connecting all of us as a knowledge center. Then we'll go on from there to Takshaslia, and then from there we'll go on to inoculation, vaccination.
Wonderful.
So we'll do that. We'll do what is Bharat. Of course, Dr. Saab has attended the course, so he would know that's those few slides. But for all our new friends here, we'll do that. So we have called this effort of ours itself as Bharath Gyan. And we clearly say our tagline is experience the knowledge of India. It's not just to read or see or anything, but more importantly, the experience is very important, especially when it comes to knowledge. And in this case, the knowledge of India, the concept of Anubhava. That's very important, especially when it comes to knowledge. It's not just bookish knowledge.
And we will see that the relevance of the word experience and the knowledge of India in the word Bharat itself that we will show you shortly here.
See, India has been a gateway of knowledge, to knowledge through the ages. And that is where we have done this concept of Anubhava, of knowledge. And here we're showing the famous Toran of Sanchi, which is one of the beautiful Torans in central India, near Bhopal, Sanchi, on top of the hill. It's a Buddhist Toran, but beautiful at that. Man has walked the sands of time for well over 8,000 years or more. But this civilization of Bharat, India, has been fortunate to have a continuous civilization. That's the beauty of it. Civilizations have fallen, risen and fallen in different parts of the world. But this civilization has been continuous to us, and man has walked the sands of time. For well over 8,000 years, recorded civilization of this land. In this land, we have a variety of ethnic groups. Each of these ethnic groups has contributed to the diversity and the strength of this nation. The civilization as a whole, that is the beauty of this civilization, a variety of ethnic groups, each one of them beautiful at that. And they have all contributed to the landscape in their own ways. That is again the beauty of the civilization and the land and the values that this land and civilization holds for us. Every one of them have contributed in their own ways in different parts of India through the times. If you look at our constitution, it says Bharat, that is India. We have two names very clearly, Bharat and India, mentioned in the constitution of the land itself, and the name coming down to us across millennia, not just centuries, but millennia. How do these two names come about? If you take the name India, it comes from the northwestern river of this land, Sindhu Nadi. That is why in our national anthem, Janagana Mana, you have the word Sindh. This whole community of Sindhis all over the world, a very prosperous, vibrant community. And even now, Karachi is the capital of the Sindh province. So the province has not changed. And so that's what we have. What happened was about 4,000, 5,000 years ago, much before Islam's time, the people on this side, the Persians and Arabs, in their language then, sir and her were interchangeable in their language. The way we have Vangal, Bengal, the verb, Sari, Sadi. Even though we say in English Sari, S-A-R-I, in Hindi we say Sadi. Like that, there's a rada exchange. Like that, there was a sir-her exchange. So Sindh became Hind for them. And for them, the people living around this river, Hind, and the people beyond were all Hind. That's how it came to be. So when this name, Hind, further traveled west, there's a short film, there are two short films on this. I can share it in the group later, or I can show it now also if you want. Just on this.
We'll show one of them so that you know where you can go and find more.
Access them. So what happens is when the name Hind traveled west, from Persia it went to Turkey, and thereon, when it went to Turkey, from Turkey it went to Greece, crossing the Bosphorus Strait. You know what happens? The H is dropped between Turkey and Greece in their languages. So the Hind became Ind for them. And when it goes further into Germany and France, an E is added in the end, in their languages. So Ind became Inde. And when it crosses the English Channel, from Calais to Dover, an A is added in the end as a suffix. So it comes back as India. So from Sindh, it becomes Hind. From in, then becomes in, then becomes Indi, then becomes Inde, then India. So the name has traveled across lands and continents, across centuries, and got the name India and comes back to us as India. So it's a beautiful travel. Similarly, if you look at the name, we'll show you the film now if you want. We'll certainly do that. Look at the name Bharat. The popular perception is from this wonderful work by Kalidasa, the great Sanskrit poet. We speak about Abhigyana Shakuntalam, where we speak about Shakuntala and Dushyant and their son Bharat. But actually the name goes back much in antiquity, far before Bharat. There have been many great noble kings of Bharat. So actually it comes from earlier king by name Jatabharata, the son of Rishabdev, who is the first Tirthankar, the Adinath. His son is Jadabharat. And it's named, probably it comes from him also. Look at this, from that time. And he is called Bharata. And who is his brother? Bahubali, who stands tall in Shravanabelagala. So it goes back to Adinath's son. So it goes back that much in time. So this is a name, it's there more in Vishnu Puran as well as in the Jain text. So look at the both of the meeting beautifully. So that happened. So that's why you get the name Bharat.
And incidentally, Rishabdev is one of the progenitors of the Ikshvaku clan, in which Rama came much later. So it goes back even, so not only our times, but Krishna's times, Rama's times, and even earlier.
So we are talking of rough time frame, maybe 10,000 years ago, plus minus, or what are we talking about?
Easily.
Because we have to date Rama reasonably well, rather precisely. But beyond that, we are yet to, the civilization has to work on it. Many scholars have to work on it. As you correctly said, it could be a couple of millennia before Rama.
And Rama is about 7,000 years before present.
So look at the name Bharat. It's a wonderful name, Bharat. But why Bharat? Look at the name. Ba means light. Bhaskara. Bhanumati. Ba is light. Light we denote for knowledge. Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. So light denotes knowledge. And Ratha. All of us are Ratha. And that's why Rati, delightful, pleasure, Kamadeva, spouse, desire, spouse. So beautiful. So what is it? We are all people of a land which relishes knowledge.
And knowledge, probably not only knowledge in the material world, but the knowledge in the other world. So both areas of life, maybe.
Absolutely.
Both the para also. This para and apara, both the knowledge at different levels. At Adhyatmika level, Adi Bhautika level, Adi Daivika level. At the three levels. Even in this world, you got three levels of knowledge. So different layers of knowledge is what we're all immersed in. Can we think of any other land, any other civilization in the world which proudly calls itself across 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 years as a civilization seeking knowledge in the path of knowledge?
Because you can trace and say it is because of such and such a Bharat, King Bharat, or Rishabdev's son Rishi Bharat, and so on. But why were they called Bharat in the first place? That is the question we have to ask. So, because nothing is without a meaning, and that's where you see that all of these people were called Bharat because they were connoisseurs of knowledge. And the beauty lies in the fact when you look at Ram, Lord Ram, Sri Ram's brother Bharat. Now, while you can say Bharat and knowledge, relishers of knowledge, in the case of Bharat, Ram, Sri Ram's brother, we all know that the word Ram has the root Ra, which means to radiate, and that's why you have radiance. Sun is Ra, Ravi.
Sun ray, English word ray,
is also from Ra. And Ra, actually also Rama means that which the person who gives comfort, who is the word Ramya that we normally use in all our languages. That is again somebody that is desirable, soothing, and who oozes charm. So like that. So Ram, and so for Bharat, he was a literal relisher of Ram. For him, the world was Ram, Sri Ram. So his Bharat is a beautiful relisher of Ram, not just knowledge. So Ram in everything. So you can see the various layers in which people have used this word Bharat, and that's how actually we got our name. And there are so many such ways in which we can relish knowledge. That is where we said, okay, we will call this journey itself as an experiencing the knowledge of India.
So you see now why we got the tag, now we gave the tag an experience and knowledge of India. And this word Bharat is again multi-layered. Is again multi-layered. The word Bharat is again multi-layered. She'll give two more layers, because since it's a very interested audience, it can take a couple of minutes. There are two more layers. So that's at the name level. And all of us are Bharatiya, means we're all seekers of knowledge, which is what this group is all about, isn't it? We're seekers of knowledge. But since we said Ba is all about ray, sun ray, look at this land of Bharata. It's drenched in sunlight for a large part of the year, isn't it? It's beautifully drenched. She'll show you that slide now, how it is drenched in sunlight. And that's why it also gets its name. See, each aspect is so nice.
In fact, even the Chinese, when they look at various civilizations, they call us as the king of wisdom. They call themselves king of humans. They call the Persians as king of kings. They call the Romans as king of men for their robust physique.
Handsomeness.
They call the Turks as king of lions for their valor and ferociousness. And then they call the Indians as king of wisdom. So it is not just we who saw ourselves as relishers of knowledge, but other civilizations have seen us as people who have relished knowledge. And there is yet another aspect. Bharat, Bhartiyo means metallurgy. And fundamentally, if you really go and look at the Sindhu Saraswati civilization, which is called the Indus Valley civilization.
It was called.
This particular civilization actually flourished because of metallurgy. A lot of these seals are being interpreted as seals of smithies over there, and who were actually very good expert metalsmiths.
If you look at the term Bhartiyo, I'm sure in Gujarati and other local Rajasthani languages, Bhartiyo means vessel, metals.
Bartan. So that is one. And here is where the literal meaning, a land immersed in sunshine. And actually during our courses, especially the one that we do on water warriors, it's like about 20 sessions we are currently doing for people on how the civilization has valued water and harnessed and preserved waters. We will see that even though there are so many civilizations here in this belt, which are equally, being blessed with sunshine, the location of India is very unique, that it gets rains at the right amount, copious rains actually, and at the right time window that you can harvest. So it is after summer that you get the rains. And
see, look at we get rains after summer and stops before winter, so that you can have 3 months of harvest time. Look at the geography and the hydrography of the land, so suitable. That's why it's sunshine. When it has to have sunshine, it has. When it needs to have rain, it has. Whereas if you look at this landmass, this landmass does not have that faculty. It's a desert. If you come here, much less here. So in the tropical area, this is the ideal land geographically. That is why our ancestors had called it Punya Bhumi. If you are geographically few degrees latitude to the east or west or north or south, you will not be Punya Bhumi. So even that, of course, we deal that in another course in detail. Actually, it's a 1 hour session as to why we are Punya Bhumi. We are geographically fixed at the right latitude and longitude to receive the sunshine, to receive the rainfall, to receive the right amount of winter as well. So everything fits in to call this land Bharat.
So here itself you see the 3 levels, Adhyatmika, Adhibhautika, on the elements like this, the sunshine, Adhyatmika, you yourself as a person, you are a civilization that is specializing in metallurgy for your own use. and then at the level where you have relished knowledge.
Shall
So
we
uh,
shall we move to our,
yes,
since you
yes,
meant land of seekers, and for
yes.
the land
So
of seekers there has to be a university, and that's what
yes,
your first topic is, of a
yes,
beauty
exactly,
of this Takshasila University that you are planning. Because I
absolutely.
know we could surely go the whole day on your topic there.
So, having set the stage of how this civilization has relished knowledge, we will look at one particular university today, one of the very ancient universities, which is Takshasila, and also has bearing on most of your professions, uh, which is medicine.
Look at the name. It's founded by Raja Bharata, named after his son, Taksha. And the word Taksha itself has got a meaning in the Sanskrit language. The word Taksha, the root of it is to be incisive. So incisive in surgery, incisive in medicine, incisive in thought.
Laser
So
sharp thought.
laser sharp thought. So please hold this point, Doctor. We'll just complete 4 slides as to why this laser sharp thought is essential, especially in Takshasila. We'll complete in 4 slides. Very, very valid point. So let's see this now. Look at this. So it comes from, he had 2 sons, Bharata. So the second son was Taksha. So it started around Rama's times. So it's a university from then to 400 BC. So that means the university has had about 4,000 plus years of continuity. We can't think of a university today that's had such antiquity. Forget antiquity, continuity. That's what it was. So these are archaeological remains of university. It's very close to Islamabad.
In its last form, how the university looked, and that is what you find now in Islamabad today. I don't know how much could be there.
It's there. And
today as such.
Look at this point, key point here. What is the age of entry in Takshasila? It's age 16. It is not a Gurukula. It is not a Patashala. It is not a Vidyalaya. It is a Vishwa Vidyalaya. It is World University, where people come here not to start education, but to complete it, not to begin it. So entry age itself is 16. When you've finished your basic education and come there for specialization.
And to become a professional, not a blue collar worker, but to become a professional in a variety of areas. Understandable.
That's what it was. And it's there in North, as I said, present day Pakistan. It's a world university of those days. And it started off small, but developed with more buildings like this. And a lot of fields were taught here. And students came from Babylonia, Greece, Syria, Arabia, Phoenicia, China. They all came to study. And there are at least 68 different streams of study on syllabus here. Look at the beauty of the range. And Sanskrit was obviously the main medium of teaching. And many kings gradually gave donations and built over centuries and millennia to be what it happened to be. And look at some of the syllabuses they taught here. So this is all very anglicized form of saying it, but it gives us a perspective of the range of subjects.
So from this, we can very clearly see that this was more of a finishing school. And like Dr. Parikh said, more the step before you become a professional. And therefore, Takshashila. A shila means a stone.
A whetstone where you sharpen.
So Takshashila is that a whetting stone where you sharpen your intellect and your skills before you step out into practice.
And look at so in Alexander's time.
You are a raw diamond. We are going to have a finished diamond. That's what basically what is being said. Right?
A brilliant diamond as well.
Brilliant diamond.
And look at this. And Buddha's personal physician, Jivaka, he was a student here. So he was a personal physician of Buddha. And you know, where we saw Jivaka's statue actually, it's wonderful. We saw Jivaka's statue in Thailand, in front of the Royal Palace in Bangkok. It's called the hermit physician, hermit doctor. That's what we saw him on a pedestal there. So look at how he's traveled across countries, across the seas. And this Takshasila attracted students from all over the world for millennia, from Rome to Syria to everywhere, to China, to Southeast Asia, Java, Bali, everywhere. So look at the huge campus they had those days. And also, it was a crossroad of three trade routes of those days. We have heard of Silk Route. Silk Route is more famous because it's been made more popular. There are other trade routes also. So it was at the crossroad of three trade routes. So people met. So it was a university town plus also a crossroad of trade route towns. So the three routes.
And that is the reason to do there rather than in the center of India, because it was not for Indians alone. It was for the world, all around the world, known world at that time, with India and China and the Europe that was known. So at the middle point of all the three, obviously Indians were the pioneer, but still.
And Bharata, his maternal home is Afghanistan, Kandahar.
Gandhar.
So, Gandhar.
KKR. Gandhar, that region.
His mother is KKE. So KKR region. So he asked his son to go there and rule
I
from
don't
there.
know
So
why. No wonder that Afghan has maintained that negative image from Kaikeyi and Gandhari. Both were from Afghan and both gave their names. Now, pardon if anybody is from Afghan here, but that makes little problematic there. I can imagine.
But you know, Afghanistan is the reason why India could have a continuous civilization. It is the buffer between major civilizations of Persia and, of course, the Bharatiya civilization, of which Afghan was a part. But then that was the border, and we've had very valiant kings of Afghan. And had it not been for this buffer zone, this civilization, I mean, it's a Punya Bhumi in many ways. Otherwise, this civilization would have been easily overrun.
See,
many millennia.
The concept of buffer states existed then. Today, we look at for the last 400 years, Switzerland as a buffer state between the Germanic countries, states, and the Romans, between the Austrians and the French or Spanish. You're talking about Switzerland being a buffer state, isn't it? Similarly, we had two buffer states. One is Afghanistan was a buffer state. Tibet, Trivishtab was a buffer state. When both the buffer states got eaten up by the other civilizations, you have got problems knocking at your door. So there comes buffer state concept.
You did mention a little bit about admission also, how the people were admitted. Yes, I remember that aspect. So whenever
they're coming there, sir. They're coming there. Yeah. So these are all the coins from there. This is actual, even now, site conditions. Look at all this. Millennia old. And this was one for Ayurveda, two for training. Military training, Takshasila was sent to. So many kings and princes, Yuvaraj used to go there for training. And unfortunately, in 455 CE, the Huna tribes from Central Asia, they destroyed it. It was destroyed multiple years before that, but every time it recovered. But after 455 CE, unfortunately, it did not recover back. Very sadly, did not recover back. So earlier it had been hit by many people, but that was a final blow. After which it never recovered. And one of the persons, Hyun Sang, the Chinese who comes here, speaks about, because Takshasila's, even though it had it was lost 200 years prior to his time, he still comes and sees that it had lost its international character. That's what he says. Having said this, let's go to now Nalanda, because the action shifts from Takshasila to Nalanda after it's being vanquished. So that's why it comes. Actually, Nalanda means a mangrove. It's an Ambavana. That's where Buddha also stays. So look at the word Nalanda, to give. So there you saw Taksha, incisive. Here you see Nalanda, to give, because knowledge is to be given. So different kings of different dynasties, especially the Gupta dynasty, have all looked after it so well, cared for it. So different people have built different things here in this kingdom. And there are great scholars coming from, again, different parts of the world to learn here. Look at the 1,500 teachers and other 1,500 people who are assisting. And they're the vice chancellor. Look at this, people coming from all over the world. And they talk about huge towers. Yuan Sang, when he comes at 6:30, he visits this university, spends time. He records very well about this university, and all the data is available in a book or to read on this point. Look at this, looking at the university, staying there. And look at this key point here. Look at this key point. See, they had university.
So just like today, many Indian students actually, if you go to Japan or Russia, you have to prep yourself with the local language. So they would come, because Sanskrit was the medium of teaching. They would go to Java and then come to these universities to study. I mean, here is a case we are seeing of Nalanda in 600, but the same held good even for Takshaslia.
All universities.
All universities.
And look at this pass ratio. Pretty much like what we have these days. Look at the pass ratio. And there are no day scholars. Everybody had to stay with the university and study. These are some of the slides of the university that we have got here. Different subjects, not just Buddhism, science, medicine, astronomy, philosophy, administration, different subjects were taught. There are different libraries. All these were, unfortunately, 9 million books were burnt. Illustrious alumni of the university, and who are all people. It was also attacked multiple times, and each time it was rebuilt. And finally, it was set to fire in 900 CE. And it was only after this university was set on fire and burnt did the idea of setting up universities actually travel. Then started these universities in different parts of Arabia, the Arab world, and Europe. So universities came after. So you had Takshasila, the primary university for millennia, followed by Nalanda, and which had similar universities like this all over the land of Bharat. Then the university idea went to West. Look at how it's flowed sequentially. We're going to capture it. Now we look at, having spoken about universities, let's go to the next subject of the evening or the day. That is about
Ayurveda and vaccination, which was a practice of the Indian civilization.
So let me take a short break before we move to the second topic, and that will give you time to drink a glass of water also. I know you need a little break there. It is amazing amount of information that is there. I know I don't want the whole crowd to be, overwhelmed with it. But the complexity, I mean, see, we all have been from India. We know our background, and we know how the feeling was that we don't know nothing compared to what West gives, what Britishers giving, what English knowledge gives, Harvard and Princeton. And I have not heard the names of Harvard, Princeton when I was in India in 20s and 30s, to be frank with you. But I knew Mayo Clinic, say being medicine. I knew, oh my goodness, the Makkah of medicine. But I did not realize the Makkah of medicine was in India for thousands of years. So this gives a possibility. And I know this is not actual at the moment, but this was the human possibility for the land of seekers. And that is what we are trying to understand. And this possibility, is it possible that we gain back the glory back again? And I think all of us will have to work in one or the other way. But understanding this is a good starting point. It's not an ending point. Obviously, the life has to continue. Go ahead, Hariji. Let's move to our next major talk. And that is for my physician colleague about vaccination, which I couldn't believe when I heard it from you. Unbelievable. Please share and move forward with that.
So coming to vaccination, all of us are familiar with the idea that Edward Jenner is the person who is credited with smallpox vaccination, having discovered it in England in 1796. And he coined this word from the Latin vacca for cow. But not many, I think, in the present generation would have come across what Dr. Holwell had to say. And he said all this in 1767 after having studied the Indian inoculation method. In the Bengal province alone he had studied, but it was what was holding good for the overall subcontinent of India. And
so this was about a decade before Edward Jenner brought out a vaccine.
Absolutely. And he had given his lecture in the London Royal College of Physicians about the antiquity of inoculation itself in India. Not only about the idea that inoculation was being practiced in India, but also that this was a very antique technique, and the things that he had to say about this technique. So here are some of the key key paragraphs, and we have actually
So,
produced
Hemaji, hold on a second.
copies of
Hemaji,
pages of his book.
Hemaji, hold on a
Yes.
second, because
Yes.
half of the people
Sure.
here are non-physicians. So smallpox vaccine is done by taking from cow's udder when they get a pox, which is like a pus-containing material. They take it out from that, and Edward Jenner inoculated that material into human beings to create a vaccine so that immunization happens. And let us see how Indians did it before that. Go ahead, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
So he says, Dr. Holwell, he says, inoculation is being performed in Hindustan by a particular tribe of Brahmins who are delegated annually for this service from the different colleges of Binduban, Dilabas, let's leave all that, over all the distant provinces, dividing themselves into small parties of 3 or 4 each. They plan their traveling circuits in such wise as to arrive at the places of the operation. And he talks about how when they arrive, the people would have abstained for a month from fish, milk, and ghee. And the prohibition of fish is mainly with respect to the native Portuguese and Mohammedans who abound in every province. Now he is going further and he says the same thing. They would arrive and come there before the onset of summer, when it was believed smallpox would strike, and inoculate the men and women who had observed this regimen. And he says about what was the process. He says the inoculator takes a piece of cloth in his hand and rubs the part to be inoculated for 8 to 10 minutes. He then makes a prick with a small instrument till the blood appears. After that, he opens a linen double cloth and takes from there a small piece of cotton charged with various matter, which he moistens with a few drops of Ganges water and applies to the wound with a bandage. In India, no large-scale smallpox epidemic was recorded until the practice was banned in 1804 by the Superintendent of Health after the discovery of Jenner's smallpox inoculation. Now, here there are a few things. And he also says that they were called Dhanantris, which is just a variation of the word Dhanvantri. So Dhanantris was how he
The anglicized way of saying it.
And he talks about one particular Dhanantri, and there are images
Paintings.
which show paintings, which show this illustrations, which show. Now, the point I would like to, since we are also will be having very little time to really go through details, but what I want to show you here is our book where we have brought out his extracts. And the key points I want to stress here is he speaks about the success of this system. So one, he says this system was successful and there was no record of large-scale smallpox until it was banned. When Jenner discovered the smallpox vaccine there, and the British forced that, just like Archana ji said a little while ago, they banned Sanskrit education and forced English education. They banned the native style, which was called Go Vasuri. That is also very important to understand. Go Vasuri, again, go for cow. So, whereas here also you find Edward Jenner picking it up from the cow, the Vakka for cow. And he says that all of this was successful. The other point, what he says is, it is from the remote past. He says the learned Dr. Friend and from the time of Ghalib, fundamentally he's talking about a time period where 3000 BC onwards is smallpox is believed to have originated. There are people who have gone into history and written sequence of events and sequence where smallpox could be traced. So in India and Egypt, you find records till 3000 BCE. Then 300 BC, you find description in Sanskrit literature. Then In rest of the world, you find description from 910 CE onwards. So all of this, so that means what Holwell is saying is smallpox and the existence of this was known in India and quite antique in India as well. But the key point here is, just one moment, it's
just
refresh.
loading, please.
Hemaji, if I may just mention something, there was in the slide you had, it said it didn't come across because I think of a typo. It was the cloth is dipped in variolous matter. It wasn't various matter which was in there. So just for
Yes, I know. I was actually going to come to that point here. See, what he says, we have to understand why the Indian system was called inoculation, while Edward Jenner's was called vaccination. So in inoculation, as we understand commonly, I'm sure all the physicians in this group here have a much wider understanding, but from a common man's perspective, what a common man is told is that in inoculation, whatever is the matter, the infectious matter, that is introduced as is into the person so that it gets into the system and antibodies are developed by a process where the infection itself in a milder form is introduced into the body of the person being vaccinated or inoculated. And because the person is receiving the live virus and is actually getting the infection, the Indian system, where the person was also kind of isolated for, they say that the inoculation system, people needed to be isolated because it's as good as an infection and these people are capable of spreading, so people had to be kept aside. As against what they call vaccination is a process where a similar kind of virus, milder variety, is introduced from some other animal and introduced into the humans so that you don't really get infected with the actual infection, but you develop the antibodies enough. So that is how they distinguished inoculation and vaccination for a common man. But if we look at what Holwell describes, he says, see, on the inoculate matter used, Holwell has described what all they did. And he says, cotton charged with variolous matter, which he moistens with 2 or 3 drops of the Ganges water and applies it to the wound. He further goes on to say that these variolous matter were from previous years as well. So it is not just variolous matter. So these physicians who come and who have got this variolous matter in between layers of cloth, and they are from previous. So fundamentally, he's talking about cultured matter that the physician is bringing, a cultured matter which has been reduced, carefully picked, carefully minimized in potency, but to be effective enough to introduce only a small amount of infection care. So the whole process was being carefully done, unlike a process where the virus is directly transmitted either by scraping the skin and putting it or blowing through nostrils with the Chinese were practicing. The problem lay, why they needed vaccination was, if you go to, I'm bringing it into a nutshell, into a story. You can read about all that in detail in the book. We will show you where it is. In a nutshell, the story goes like this. Now, this was a system which was being practiced for millennia. And it was a well-honed system and practice which was timed at the right season, and people had to abstain and follow a regimen in food. The Dhanantris were, I'm using the same word, the Dhanantris were experts in culturing this particular virus and then putting it into people. and they would stay in the village and observe. And when those pustules, sometimes if they became more virulent and if the eruptions were higher, they knew how to discharge and contain it. And the whole village got the shots at the same time. And so that when you look at it as a population, the infection as such, the isolation, they were all kind of together and they were all receiving it annually. And not all of them annually. I mean, they had their system of when to give the inoculation to a person who has already received or not. So that was a very systematic practice. However, what happened is people who visited India and saw this, they saw at a very superficial level and they took the system to their respective lands. Actually, it gets into England from the Turkish province. Actually, a lady takes it, and all the practices in the other lands, including what was done in England to emulate India, was done in a very haphazard manner. Neither was the system very rigorous of how to administer it, nor did they have the know-how of how to contain it, nor were they having the know-how of how to culture it. So whatever they were doing was turning out very fatal. There were more people succumbing to this rather than actually this giving them a protection. So which is why they raise a hue and cry saying the Indian system, inoculation, it is inoculation, it should be, in fact, until then they didn't call it inoculation. They say that this particular system should be banned because it's more dangerous than a good preventive measure. And that is where they start researching, and Edward Jenner hits upon the idea of using the cowpox, and that leads to what they call then the vaccination. And
so
then
the variola material that they used, Indians used, was it from a cowpox or was it from a human pox that previous year?
It is cowpox only.
Ah,
but it is cultured, and then I really, we don't have the data on what exactly they did. I'm sure once Archana ji and people, we get enough Sanskritis to go through various manuscripts, we may be able to identify what they exactly did.
What I would personally think, one of the things they could do very easily in those era is, just as in homeopathic, the medicine is diluted multi-million times. The same way, if this virus amount is diluted, then you have one virus rather than 100,000 virus coming at a time in your body. You're going to be able to destroy that virus and create an immunity at the same time. So I don't see a problem. So basically, they have the seeds, just as the farmers preserve the seed for the next year. They are preserving the seed, reducing its potency rather than maintaining the potency what a farmer wants, and then inoculating and giving to the human beings. I mean, it is just amazing to me. And frankly, I think there is enough data that probably you've come across that it did work, as this gentleman writes, that it did work, and that's what matters. Otherwise, in Indian setup, if it didn't work, I mean, we would have a headache. I do not know if any Indian major plague happened before this era at all. So I mean, I do not know the literature in that sense. But I mean, we know that in Britain, the plague was horrible at some stage there. And, so
fundamentally what we see and what Holwell actually says. So like you said, see here, he had written about using Ganges water. He says dipped in Ganges water and all that. So they reduce it. They were masters in it. Whereas when people did it without understanding the process and in a random manner, it was causing a lot of havoc in other places. Now, the other point I want to highlight, so he writes about the entire various points that we have highlighted here on contrasting the technique in India and in Europe, and how the practitioners in Europe actually caused the Indian practice to get a bad name. And he ends with a report of praise for the Indian inoculation system. So here is a British FRS who is actually saying that we should look, and he ends this report with a hope and prayer. And he says that it is a success story. Let us follow this. And more than that, and like I said, inoculation versus vaccination. So in modern terms, what we hear from microbiologists is that vaccination means something where you treat, you work, you culture, you do something with the variolous material and then introduce it, that becomes a vaccine. So here, if you look at the Indian
Well,
system,
I would I would slightly put it this way. We know vaccinations are of two kinds: live
yes,
attenuated virus vaccine and the killed vaccine. Now the third one coming up now is this RNA vaccine, which has nothing to do with the life. They are just created by the proteins. So far we had a live vaccine, we had a killed vaccine. So, so it follows to, so I'm not sure the difference between inoculation and vaccination is valid from medical standpoint, if you ask me, but we know the varieties of vaccines. So basically, the idea is the people knew that plague was not a divine curse. Plague occurred sequely to something in that material, and they didn't have microscope, obviously. They didn't see the virus, but they understood the mechanism, and they found the mechanism to counter it in the future. Those two things are certain. And they also found that that material can bring bacteria and many other things. To dilute them, to remove those bacteria, there are certain system works. They experimented over a time, and it worked. Bottom line is it worked. And the conceptually it is sound in the sense that you are using one material to create immune system. So for an average physician, and I am Indian trained, US trained physician, said, I had no idea about the whole thing. Why in the world they would keep it hidden? That before the Britishers gave to it, we had it. They ruined it. And they not only ruined it, but they made us even forget that this existed. That is where your team comes in picture to bring it about the way that you have done it. And I think people can all read ultimately in this book called Staying Alive. Is that the name of the book that is in there?
Yes, this is the Staying Alive, which is there on our website. And right now it is there for read directly from our website itself.
So people can all, they are available on Amazon, many of these books, they are available on their websites, and we can all explore. My idea is to give people a flavor, not all, because otherwise all is all exhausting and we will never end, but to give a flavor that this is all available and we have a choice to read and understand it. See, what I liked about this situation is that they are staying with the factual information that can be verified, as and I suggested them to bring the paper actually from the British person. I'm happy that, so nobody can question, because these are all professional people, and they don't want a hearsay. All of us want something documented that is verifiable, and I mean, this is a wonderful job that you have done in that sense. But let me come to a more interesting point, that if the people want to look into more details of your work, can you show them quickly where to look for, so that I know we will not be able to exhaust this today, but I want people to get a feel about it, where they can get the information in real life.
So this is actually our website, bharathgyan.com, and all this detail about this Go Basuri and the vaccines, we can, there are books and mini books here. Mini books you can read online, books can be got from Kindle, and here are the list of books. And this particular book about Holwell's statement, that is here in this Staying Alive, and this one we can read it online directly here itself. So it is hosted here, and you could, it's a flip book, so you can check it out here.
See, basically what we are saying in this book is how the civilization has handled pandemics. This is not the first pandemic that the civilization has handled, nor is the first time it's handled lockdowns. It's handled lockdowns, pandemics, and how it has survived through all these, not just wars and all those things. It's survived and come through. So that's why we call Staying Alive India, because you've taken off from the famous film Staying Alive to use that as an image. But this civilization has had the capacity to stay alive and survive through. It's a sustaining civilization. So from that perspective, we have shown it from medical, education, all aspects.
Actually, point we also, for staying alive, I just want to highlight what Holwell says in the end. He says that the civilization had understood that most of the diseases are not being caused because the germs are entering the body, but they are being caused because the person doesn't have his immunity to fight these. So he says the civilization had focused a lot on prevention and building up immunity, and the whole thing had been systematized so well, which is what perhaps you will also get to see when Archana ji speaks about the Ayurveda system. So the perspective is what he is highlighting about the Indian system and their way of practicing medicine. So that is one thing. And then we also have these systems integrated with religion, spirituality. So they had a divinity, Sitala Devi, who was given a donkey as her mount, because donkey, today we use it in cosmetics for skin problems. And so we have the Sitala Devi.
This book alone is 500 pages, 470 pages.
Yes, yes.
The volume of work that you have created is mind-boggling. I must tell you that part.
Right.
And this comes as part of our Autobiography of India series, which is actually 100 volumes.
Oh my goodness. Phew. This will
So,
become an encyclopedia by itself of Indian civilization. I must tell you that part.
yes. And you can also look at some of the films from the YouTube channel here. So we also make very short films so that it can go and reach people and just timed enough to maintain their level of attention.
We have made actually over 400 short films, all 3 minutes, 4 minutes, for people to go and watch. These are the films. The playlist is there.
So once you click on YouTube and get into our channel, you can click on playlist where they're all listed topic wise, and most of them are just 2-3 minuters, especially if you go to the one on Amazing India. Amazing
My
India.
feeling is nothing like audio visual. When you see live on the video, it sinks into the heart so much faster rather than reading. But I mean, I think both has their value. Obviously, the material that you can cover in reading is huge. So no question about that. Oh my goodness, the amount of work that has gone in collecting, putting forward, creating. No wonder. And despite that, whenever I email Hariji, I get it or text him within 10 minutes. I have the answer there. So I must hats off to you that you keep on being available and just communicate so promptly. And that is what is needed. This is just unbelievable. Let me open the forum. I know we have a lot more to say from your side. Let me ask you before I open up the forum is, what I would like at some stage is, while for most of the Indians here of first generation, this is very easy to understand. But at some stage, I hope that you can create a channel where it is primarily for the Western born second generation who do not understand the Indian lingo, and they can still get a feel about it, what was there in their own terms and understanding. So I'm sure I think there is a class available on that already from you.
Yeah, we are actually currently conducting courses for mainly the American children through Hindu University of America, fundamentally teens and above, and different aspects like the Hindu contributions to the world in the realm of matter, in the realm of mind. So as well as exploring Hinduism. So these are some of the things that fundamentally focused on educating the Western minds, both adults as well as youngsters. A variety of aspects like exploring Hinduism, Bharat brand ambassador, so how it has been a brand for the world. Then Hindu contributions to the world in the realm of matter. What all has this civilization contributed to the world as such to shape it to what it is today? And where did this civilization drop the ball? How can we pick it up again? What is the fundamental difference in the paradigm of production, of practicing industry, of trade, vis-a-vis what is done today? So there is actually, what you see is not just, well, that day also you manufactured steel, you're manufacturing steel today, but what is the paradigm shift? What had made this civilization produce and sustain itself with flourish for so many millennia, which today we are not able to. Every few decades we find the shift in terms of both money power as well as political power. But in those days, this civilization had been the center of the world because people sought this region for millennia. So why did this happen? That is what we will see in this contributions to the world in the realm of matter. In the realm of mind, we see all the various things that concepts which had taken root here and which had traveled to the rest of the world. So this gives the Western youngsters a good feel about their roots, especially about India, Indian children about India, and foreigners a very good perspective about this civilization.
So here we look at steel, indigo, spices, zinc, knowledge, jewels, colors,
Diamonds,
metallurgy.
we have given diamonds, we have given sugar.
All that, sugar.
These are things that are never spoken about. Nobody actually links India with sugar. Nobody links India with diamonds. But these are wonderful things that have gone from here, and there is a beautiful story as to how it went.
We written a series of books called Brand Bharat, which will show you, which is there in this. And those who want to join the course are certainly welcome. It starts on October 9th. It's actually 20 sessions. You're welcome to join the course, those who want. And going back, we'll show you the books Brand Bharat, in which all this data is captured by us in simple, understandable way. This is actually 5 volumes.
Made in India for the products that went from here, roots in India for the knowledge and concepts, then unique to India, which is only in India and you have to come to India to see it, and leads from India, how we have shaped world civilizations. And when you look at all of these put together, you find that actually what is the brand of the civilization called Bharat is not any one of this or all of them put together. It is the fact that this has been a giving civilization, and it has given for millennia, albeit the last 100, 150 years where we have been forced to take from other civilizations. So what is it that we can then offer in future is the 5th volume, which is Future from India, where we discuss these paradigm shifts in detail. And then we have breaking the myths about identity, about society, where we deal actually with myths about religion, about caste system, about education, about women. So these are myths about society. Then, and each of these is about 400, 300, 400 pages. So sufficient number of myths, as much as we think they can hold in their hand. We have put it into these books about prosperity. We say we were a sone ki chidiya, but yet, you know, people coming to India see it as a poor country and cows on the road, and you see wide disparity. So how do you break these myths about the fact that India was a prosperous country and still has the potential? What was the secret for this prosperity? And eventually we are always told that it is the British or the Greeks who gave civilization and who gave development to this land. Otherwise, you know, we would not be what we are today. And so
the good ability that the Indian civilization had innately, and we follow this up with other books on the connect between India and Japan, connect between India and Russia, and connect between India and ancient Americas through the east, through the Pacific Ocean, which is the word Pacific, pacify, peace, which in Indian terms we call it as Shanti Sagar. So that's what we bring out of this book. Then we speak about regional ideas, Telugu Talli and what do you call Kannada Ambe, Tamil Thai, Utkala Janani.
So those are
Kashmir
in the mini book
Purvasini,
section. In the mini books, you find various
all
other
books.
regions.
Then there's a trilogy we wrote on Rama. One is historical Rama, other is Ramayana and Lanka. This we wrote for the Sri Lankan government actually.
Because if Rama is historical, Ravana also has to be historical.
So
And so from
it reminds me of your practical significance of all your work that you told me a few days ago, that one of your friends who is becoming a governor of one of the state,
Yes.
a different state than when he lived in, I wouldn't name,
Yes.
you know it. But so if I am a Gujarati and I'm becoming a, say, in charge of Tamil Nadu, to go there, I need information to talk to the people. I do not know much. And you provided him as a ready material for him to start the journey with. And that is the beauty of it, that people in a diplomatic field, people in a variety of ways can utilize this information, their own connection to the local people there. So if I'm visiting China as an Indian ambassador, it would help knowing. And frankly, when the Chinese ambassador came with Prime Minister India, Modi, they went to the Buddhist home or their homeland, Modi's homeland, a town in Gujarat, where there was a connection to Chinese pilgrimage. So all these things, unless we revive them, it will be hard to move forward there. So I see a practical implication in a real life also, while understanding the roots in its own way there. Oh my goodness, this is a lot of stuff to digest in a day, I must tell you. Need a good cup of coffee and tea.
We have book on Indo-Arabia, Connect of Millennia, then we Indo-Israel.
Because we were very well connected globally. And
since you're a Gujarati, you mentioned it.
I hope you realize you would be well connected. At the moment, there is no country in the world who has not people who have come to Harvard and Princeton. So the same way, it was a reverse in that situation. They all know about America and Harvard because of that. And it was a reverse the reason 2000 years ago. I mean, just because of 1,000 years of occupation wiped out all that was there, systematically suppressed and destroyed. And now we are thinking, good God, all that we have left out with the cows and cow dung. And that is not the story there. I mean, that was the purpose of bringing you out. Let me open the forum. I know some of our colleagues may be wanting to ask a question. I do not want them to. Please feel free.
I want to ask a question.
yes,
Congratulations to you people. It's a fantastic work. I mean, I have been reading quite a lot about these things. And some of the questions come to my mind. I know you can't answer all the questions. Number one, why the Indian education system is so superior to the Christianity or Western form or any other system, or Chinese system. Why is that? Can you just answer very briefly? And the second part is as far as the health system, say at the time of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, when he was overthrown, the British took over, and they found every village in Punjab. Punjab was not a small place, it was a big area. And everybody could read and write, including the women. And they were totally surprised. How did that happen? And actually, they exemplified that in Britain at that time. And their main thing was that destroy the system if we want to rule India. And that's the only way. And they, to some extent, they were successful. But I'm more curious about why the Indian education system was so superior. We have 18 universities all over India, Kashmir, Nalanda, and South India. There were many as well too. And
let them answer. Yes, Ji. We'll move forward.
Thank you for asking this question, Katereji. And that's why Mahatma Gandhi. We'll show you a few slides on this. Mahatma Gandhi explained the Indian education system and he called it a beautiful tree, actually. And we'll show that to you. It's in the capsule. He called the system of India as a beautiful tree. Okay. And he said it was scratched and destroyed by the British. And he made the statement in the Chatham House in October 1931. And he says, they scratched the soil and left the root exposed and the beautiful tree perished. This statement he makes. When he made the statement, this is a picture that we made of this beautiful tree that was scratched by the British and left. A person named Sir Philip Hartog, he said, Gandhi, either you prove it, the statement you made that India had a good education system better than what the British offered, or you withdraw it. Unfortunately, when he came back to India after that, he was jailed, so he could not prove it. But another person by name Dharampalji took it upon himself. He scored through the East India records, East India Company records, and proved the system. And we had the good fortune of about 15 years ago, personally meeting Sri Dharampalji when he was alive, interact with him, actually sat in his cot in Wardha, Sevagram, near Nagpur. And we had the good opportunity of interacting with him and going through his record, trunk box of records, original handwritten note records of those days.
And also followed up by going to the British Library in London.
Then we went there to study here in the British Library, which now houses the East India Company records, and collected data and showed how, since he mentioned Lahore, Punjab, I'm showing you. Well, Lahore was then the capital of Punjab. Look at this. And there was not a mosque, temple, or dharmashala that did not have a school attached to it. So it's very wide. Everywhere there was. And this was being mentioned by Leitner, the principal of Government College, Lahore. And he says that was what they were. And look at this. So from the times of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, which is what you just mentioned, Katareji, from 18. So there were schools everywhere, all over this region.
And it was a very well-oiled system, very well penetrating and very well ordered. If you had noticed a little while ago, Hari was mentioning about Patashala, Gurukula, Vidyalaya, Mahavidyalaya, and Vishwa Mahavidyalaya. We had a very, very clear distinction of the levels of teaching. And these were there all over the land. So while there were universities for finishing, which would not, Vidyalaya, Mahavidyalaya, and Vishwa Mahavidyalaya, where people could not go before 16, until 16, we had a very clear norm. Up to 7, you are educated at home by your parents. At 7, irrespective of your varna, not caste, in all the 4 varnas had to undergo thread initiation ceremony and go to Gurukula and study. Patashala,
first level.
And then Gurukula and study.
See, Patashala, Gurukula, Vidyalaya.
My question is different. I think you are telling me the system of education. What I'm saying, why the system was superior. Let me let me add my comment on that. The way I think about it. In Christianity, when you are a born sinner, in our Hinduism, I think you are a born ignorant. That's what. So that is the basic difference between the Western system, same as the Chinese system. As you know, as you mentioned that too, that the hundreds and thousands of scholars from India were transported to China to translate the Sanskrit books. They did not want to change to Sanskrit. Chinese were very proud people. And so they translated books from Nalanda and other universities. And they were done by the Indian scholars who learned both Sanskrit and Chinese. So to my mind, that was the biggest difference, that we have independent mind. And so that's the reason we progressed in every field.
Independent mind and integrated knowledge. The
Well,
education
that happens automatically.
Yes. And that's one.
Again, I think the point, Hemaji, that you made, that all caste, all varnas were admitted would be, so a Brahman would be studying with a Shudra. There is no difference as far as Pathshala is concerned. I think it's an eye-opening. If there is a proof of that statement, and you have some proof, would be worthwhile spreading across the whole humanity, that we did not differentiate among the people. Subsequent differentiation was added. It will be worthwhile bringing it out that this is absolute nonsense, that we discriminated against people on the basis of, because if there is an equal access to all varnas to study together, I cannot believe that there would be any other interpretation of that.
This is actually, it was not restricted to Brahmins. It's a fact, historical fact, because we have data from British records, okay, and we see the whole of South India they had done a survey, and it was done from a place called Bellary. It's called a Bellary report, and here they say which area of this region, which is then called the Madras Presidency, as seen by you in the green here. This was directly under the control of the British. They show each area, how many people studied in each school. This is a Hindus caste-wise division survey done then. So in Ganjam district, how many Brahmins, how many Vaishya, Shudra, other caste studied? Look at this data. In Visakhapatnam, Rajamandri, Masulipatnam, look at the Shudra caste. All actually they are equal in number or more. If we take Nellore, which is north of Chennai, if 2,400 Brahmins studied in Gurukulas, 2,400 Shudras studied, equal number. If you look at Kadapa, it's 1,400 Brahmins, is 1,700 Shudras, Vaishya. So all where you take Bellary, Srirangapatnam is where you had Tipu Sultan's rule. If 48 Brahmins went, 290 Shudras went.
So, I cannot believe that from 7 to 13, if these children have studied and played and learned shoulder to shoulder, they will grow up in a discriminating manner over a lifespan. I just cannot believe it. That if I am sitting with somebody for 7 years, when I grow up, I will tell you, you are Shudra. I think it would behoove to my intelligence that it will be possible.
And this is the district we are living.
You may be right at that time, but I think later on things changed.
Well, obviously, the change could have been forced. People who wanted to compartmentalize the nation and let them fight against each other,
That doesn't matter. What I'm saying is, in my lifetime, I have seen if you touch a Sudra, Dalits, you have to go and have a bath.
Well, I mean, again, you are seeing a very focused 10, 20 years of your life, millennia, where there are 1,000 years of generation.
That was the situation.
Again, Dr. Kataria, looking at 10 years doesn't make it generalization over.
I'm not talking of 10 years. I'm talking of since 19th century, 20th century.
So that's obviously after 1,000 years of occupation. How can we put together?
I think in the beginning, that was not a problem. The problem occurred over the last 100 and 150 years.
No, last 500, they will be able to tell us better what is the reality there.
Dr. Parikh, the caste system was not Indian. The caste system is one Portuguese word. It was actually invented and designed for Europe by St. Thomas Aquinas in 1290. And later in 1500s, it was taken to New Mexico, that is Central Americas, that's New Spain, and imposed there because the Europeans were marrying the locals. So they brought the caste system there to segregate the children born of their intermarriages.
And when the Portuguese came to India, the word casta is how they
word,
saw India. The British
I'm not pointing to the word. Even Varna has a segregation too. What I'm highlighting, the segregation in the Varna were integrated. They were not. They were not looked down upon. That is what I'm going to highlight, what Dr. Kataria is highlighting. And it has been my experience too. We all have experienced the differences. But I think these differences were more introduced over the last couple of 100 years to make Indians fight against each other. Divide and rule has always been the policy.
That's exactly I'm saying. Yes, that's what changed.
So can I take a moment, Parikh, I want to just say one word, because you used the word Varna a couple of times. I used the word Varna. What does the word Varna mean?
Stages?
No.
Color.
Color is what Archana ji is saying. Very good. Color. But why color? Why color? Color is something you choose.
From your prakriti, from your tendency?
No, color
is something you choose. You can choose light pink, mere wala lal, mere wala blue. You choose something. Okay, when your grandparents got married, when they went to see the bride, what do they call the whole effort of going to see a bride or a groom? In any Indian language, be it Punjabi, be it Assamese, be it Tamil, Kannada, Telugu.
It's called Var, Vardundna, Varam, Varan, and so on.
Vardundna. That's why it's called Swayam Var.
Choice.
So Var there means to choose. Choice. You also choose a color. So when you say Varna, it's by choice. You choose a Varna based on your attitude, aptitude, opportunities, skills, capability, times, etc. So Varna means by choice. Whereas Jati is by birth, Janam, you're born into a family. So these are two different things. What the British did is they conveniently mixed the two.
Collapsed it, which was a beautiful matrix, two-dimensional, with many other dimensions being added to it, like ashrama and so on. They collapsed it into one single hierarchical list of caste system.
So caste system is Christian, is European, was introduced to keep the gypsies away. Actually, it was started by St. Thomas Aquinas. We'll show this slide to you now. Caste system is not ours. We'll show it the slide to you. It was actually, we have a full capsule which we do for our courses where we show the caste system.
As to the jatis, how would you say in the jatis in the older ones? Like
Jati is by birth. No, I don't think we're sharing screen. 1 second. We'll share screen, please. Look at this. Jati, see, we have two terms here. See, Casta was introduced into India by first the Portuguese, later taken on by the British. So it's not Indian system. It is a Christian system, it's European system. It's totally comes from this word. Casta leads to chaste, pure, because they wanted purity.
Purity of European blood.
So that's what it came down to. And look at this. This is a imperial Spanish system used for European father and the local Mexican mothers, natives. So it was actually brought in. It's not India, it's Indio, Negro and Mulatta and all that. So it was for them, not for us. And it was for this area, for this settlements, for these people, Spanish Louisiana and all that. So this was the US, old US. It was at that time introduced for them. Unfortunately, and it was for their Roman law, Spanish bureaucracy, imposed on India. It was an Iberian idea of Spain and Portugal imposed on India. And we did not have this. Black was not a bad color for us.
Basically, what I hear is jatis you are born in and varna you choose. Do I understand that correct?
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes. Varna is by choice. You choose based on your skill, profession, timing, etc. And you can shift varna within your lifespan. You can change varna 3-4 times in your single lifespan.
So being a Brahman and Shudra are varna. Do I understand that correct?
Yes, they are varna.
Yes, absolutely.
If you're working for...
So if I am born in a Baniya jati, I could choose to become a teacher, Brahman, like Brahman, or to be a menial worker, which may be on the Shudra side, which I'm not trying to categorize, but sort of. It's open-ended. It's not that you must do this.
And incidentally, you will see when the British came to India, the maximum wealth was in the hands of the Shudra.
Didn't
They
know that.
were the wealthiest.
Yes,
Really?
absolutely. No doubt about it at all.
Actually, we do the entire caste. We can go on for hours on caste from various points of view.
So
And
Shudras
especially-
were not poor at all. Question doesn't arise in that sense.
No, they were the
The
wealthiest, and the power, authority was in their hands.
The Shudras had the land, the power, the money, everything.
This is eye-opening to almost 20 people who are there on the field. I have no question about that, for all that it matters. Oh my goodness, we'll need another whole talk on this one. But let me move forward,
System.
But do you know what changed it?
And look at this.
What
And look at this.
changed it?
Look at
yes,
this. Thomas
Yashji is asking what changed. Obviously, Yashji, you know what changed, right?
British colonization and the breaking of the industries, and like we said, the collapse of, the society. A civilization is made up of society, and we had a beautiful word for society. It is samaj, sama, where it is balanced. Society is something that was a balanced entity.
Let's move forward, Hariji. What do you have other suggestion there?
No, you can ask us any question on any topic. We'd be glad to
I
take.
know. I think we are way going over the time at the moment. But I mean, this is amazing. I mean, I didn't realize that Shudras had such a large presence and significance in the whole society hierarchy, which to me in the last 50 years or 70 years who are born, I mean, they can't even imagine. And this is so much needed. Even this sentence that Shudras studied with Brahmins all the time, and they had a more wealth than Brahmins and more power in that sense, I think is worth highlighting in all the books and the universities. Then the stupid people who are making us divide and look down upon them, I think they will be silenced. And
actually, Brahmins did not have any wealth. That's my understanding during those days. Is that correct?
Who is this, by the way? Can you please?
I'm sorry. This is Raj. Yeah, my understanding was that the Brahmins were not supposed to have any wealth. They were supposed to live on all the donations and those things.
Absolutely.
Hariji, I think, is that correct?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Very much.
Brahmins lived for society. The Shudras and the Vaishyas contributed to the welfare of the knowledge people. Anybody who are working in knowledge is a Brahman. Anybody who looks at, anybody who guides is a Brahman. Anybody who grows is a Shudra. Anybody who guards is a Kshatriya. Simple. And we have brought this out all in our book, Breaking the Myths About Society. It's actually, we have dealt this over 100 pages, detailed about this particular aspect. We have broken the myth about the caste system absolutely with facts. Nothing we're talking without facts.
So, I frankly would invite not only you, for us, but even for the whole second generation here to listen to a lecture on breaking the myth of the caste. Let that be the invitation for really second generation to know that what they are thinking the caste, what they are fed by the Western media, that this is the caste is what India is about. Then they realize what was the beauty of the so-called Varnashram, how integrated the whole system is. And frankly, if the system is not integrated, it cannot flourish to such a high level in all the dimensions of the life, not only in a physical dimension, but in a spiritual dimension, in a capable nation. All this cannot happen when you are fighting inside. I cannot believe half of the population of Shudra fighting against Brahmin and the society coming up. It is just not possible. So I think I'm all for that. Sajjanji, let me
how to protect
hold on. Yes, Ji, hold on a second, please. Sajjanji, if you had a suggestion, feel free to unmute and give your viewpoint, what you feel comfortable with.
So, Bharatji, based from what you said, I'll just take a point. For 5,000, suppose our caste system was supposedly so oppressive. Was supposedly so oppressive as is being painted by the colonialists and the post-colonialists. Suppose it was. You never have found a caste war, a caste uprising.
You are right. Right. Otherwise, Shudras would be fighting. They are human beings. They would be fighting against Brahmin and Kshatriya all the time. I can't believe it. And I was told, I don't know whether you told or somebody else told, that in the king's court, there were equal or more seats of the Shudra. I think you told me or somebody.
Kings were of Shudra families. In 1947, of the 540 princely states that handed over power, over 250 of them belong to the Shudra Varna.
Can you believe that? This is beyond imagination.
ABCD facts. I'm not talking. I show you with I'll show you with ABCD facts. We have just share screen. 1 second.
1 minute.
We listed out all the 547 princely states by name, and I show you how they are of those different varna. I'll show you. See, this was actually the caste system was started by St. Thomas Aquinas for Europe, and we show you here. See, look at the kings of Bharat, and we show you right from 3000 to now 1947. They belong to different varnas, and same person Dharampalji has mentioned about it in his paper. And we have taken from that and we have built a look at all the princely states. We have taken all the 540 princely states of India as of 1947 when power was handed over. Every state we taken looked at which from Adesar, Agra to every state we taken and which jati they belong, which dynasty, which place, which jati they belong. Across both India and Pakistan. Then we go to alphabet B. Alphabet C. We have done a comprehensive exercise, sir.
Pretty interesting.
And you take an alphabet, any alphabet random you take. We have done alphabet wise, English alphabet wise we have done. So we have done this fully to show that across India, not just you take any alphabet you want, you take S, you take so then we come to Jagirs. That's the princely states. Then the next level, Jagirdars, Takurdars. Look at them. Across India, again, alphabet wise you have taken. Any alphabet you can take.
Over the last 24 years, did you have a time to sleep at all? Or morning, evening, and night? I mean, this is what. Let us stop sharing screen there and let us come and make it a little lighter for all to interact if they have. I mean, I think we can go for days and weeks together. I think we will not be exhausted. We all are, I think, hungry for a knowledge of variety of reasons. But oh my God.
We have over 500 hours of content, sir.
What can I tell you? Heads off to you. And I've seen many couples in the world in my practice and so on and so forth. But it is charm to see what you two are bringing to the plate. I think, we can't we are like sponges and can absorb all that you have to go. And I know we are not rewarding in that sense, But if my words and eyes tell you anything, you know what I'm meaning. And I think I speak for all of us, those who are
It's a
sitting here.
privilege.
I have no question about it.
Yeah, it's a privilege and just divine grace. That's all we should say.
See, when we came across this data, we thought let's quit our careers to focus on this, because careers come and go. We can work, we can have few more vehicles, we can build larger house, have a more.
Please come back. I would request come back more frequently.
You know, yatra yogeshwara Krishna, yatra partha dhanurdhara, tatra shrir vijayo bhuti, dhruva natir mama. Wherever the spiritual base and liking is there, and when the people like Arjun, like both of you are there, there's no reason to go back to anything. I think that's how I see the whole situation and exercise. Please feel free. Anybody wants to say a word of encouragement to them, I think it will mean a lot. I wouldn't hold back silent if you have a few lines and words to say.
It is really amazing what you both have done. I mean, I'm just awed. Really. It's really, and it is important also that as we go along, we make it more and more relevant to the generations and all, so that we can retain. And it in Hinduism or Sanatan Dharma, I'm just learning. Frankly, I just got into the business world and I learned that and those skills, but now I'm trying to, and it is so amazing, and learnings from both Hindu University and reading all your books also. So I do plan to talk to you, but I thought first let me be a little bit more educated so that I can have right questions.
I mean, we have capable people here, and I would personally like their hands to be reinforced in such a way that nothing holds them back in the pursuit of what they are doing. And they, in turn, encourage youngsters all over the world who have probably a passion for this, but cannot do this in their own way, that they are empowered and to be able to do that. And we ultimately make it possible. So we do not want to stop at that level at all. I mean, we want to continue this journey over the next 100 years. But whatever we have brought out, you have brought out in your journey, we definitely want to disseminate across the people there. And that was my hope, that so many physician friends would join. I know some has joined. Frankly, I'm disheartened that so few took up on my challenge, but I guess who cares about them? I mean, those who are there are good enough. And I know if I alone was there, you probably would have given your time and energy.
And I would like to thank you, Pankajji, for arranging this function.
Well, I'm happy. I enjoyed it as much. So it's my passion. So if you all become a part to it, it becomes double there. I know it's getting late for you, Hariji and Hemaji, and again, really appreciate and sincere thanks to all for joining there.
Thank you, Pankajji, for organizing this, and thanks, Hema and Hariji. Thank you so much.
Namaskar.
Thank you.
Chalo, I will end for today and again.